you don't use it. You don't really use it. And I mean,
it's when women use it as well. It's like amplifies how, when you hear a woman use that word, it's like, oh man,
oof, it stings. But then you guys throw it around liberally, like, hey, that's my friend. So of course I'm going to call him a con.
Ese hombre holding up the bottle. Look a little closer, cigar and Moscato. An actor in improv coming from Chicago. Outdoors, big waves
Hi, Oliver. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, good to see you, Paul. Actually, I was worried that I might have missed you because I just checked my my email and the invite said 8:30 to 9:30. So I'm like, I'm sure we said 9:30. I thought that's it. I've messed up, but yeah. And then I didn't hear from you 10 minutes before. I thought you were gonna get back to me like at 9:20 or something. So I'm very precise with my time. So,
boy, you British really are. I was in the middle of some deep REM sleep, and then I almost drifted back off, and I woke up and I was like, wait, I can't. Like, what am I doing? I've got this interview to do. But it all worked out because we would have just done this in the green room. Yeah. So my apologies.
No, that's fine. I mean, I really appreciate you staying up this late. I mean, I haven't stayed up till 1:30 a.m. since like 2005, I think. So yeah, you're doing well. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to have you and to meet you. Let me ask you before we get started. And I should have had this information before. Do you have a website that I can put into? It's called a little.
I don't use my website anymore. I think since social media took off, I just update my social media. So it's basically my Instagram is the main one that I use, which is Oliver Price Official, and I'm on Twitter as well and Facebook.
And but pretty much Oliver Price Official will if somebody searches that.
I mean, if you Google my name, Twitter or whatever, it'll come up. So
perfect. So I'm and basically, and I think you're 100% right as far as websites go. So now, if you look down below, you'll see there's a little fortune cookie scrolling, and it just basically has. So if somebody wants to find me, they can just click on paulvato.com or, of course, Oliver Price Official, and that's on Instagram and on social media. But I think that's the general consensus that the websites, as actors, we almost no longer need them. A good bio link like Linktree or I use Popple or Direct.me is good enough because from there, all the links, whether it's your IMDb or whatever. Exactly. So that's 100% right.
It really hit home to me how the whole social media thing was so relevant now, because I did a short film a few years ago and they actually cast the lead actress off the back of her followers that she had. She wasn't even an actress, and I was like, damn, is that really happening? And it's happening more and more now because, if a studio is umming and ahhing between you and someone else and you've got 1 million followers and they haven't got any, then it's kind of they're getting all that free publicity, aren't they?
100%. And it's a little, it's a little scary because it should obviously just be based on our merit, on our ability to be actors and to do the acting. But you, my friend, are 100% right. And it's relatively new. I mean, it's so much so that, like, when I first joined Clubhouse, if you're familiar with the social audio app, Clubhouse, I was on there. And even just a little bit over a year ago, at the end of January was my first day. And even back then, because I remember asking a few, because I was just getting back into the world of acting. And I remember asking them, like, so how important is, your social media following? And even like a little bit over a year ago, I felt like a lot of people were going like, oh, we strictly base our casting on the talent and the acting. And then a year and a half later, they're literally going like, yeah, you better work on your social media because... and I'm sure that's been going on for a while, though.
Yeah, it has. It's just been getting more and more important, I think. All the top agents are active on there, and Yeah, and people are cast directly from YouTube, and it's crazy. But you have to roll with the times and embrace it. I mean, sometimes it feels like work. You have to think about the algorithm and what's the best time of the day to post and all that. And sometimes I'm like, do you know what? I just can't. I can't be bothered with that, and I'll just not post anything for a few days. But then I'm like, oh. I better start getting back on the horse and doing some stuff. And then you've got to think about what can I post. And during the pandemic, when I didn't have any work, I took to doing lip syncing on TikTok, which actually was I really enjoyed that because you could lip sync to some really funny skits and stuff. And I actually found some work. Someone approached me for a job. Because I'd done those skits and they'd seen them, I'd posted them and it's actually on my Instagram. I have a little TikTok thing in my stories. And they gave me a job off the back of me doing that. So, you got to hustle wherever you can. It's not easy.
It's not. And then I'm sure it was similar to what you guys went through as far as the auditioning process, where now not just taking care of all of our social media. And I feel like when I first did this 20 years ago, of course, there wasn't all this social media, wasn't around. So it's not like we had to do it all, but a lot of times either your manager would take care of it for you or your agents would be, happy to update stuff for you. And then now it's all us. So we have to be our own social media manager. Then not to mention our own directors, our own lighting people, our own, everything. So, I mean, it's a lot. It takes a lot to poor us that we have to be actors, but it's not easy. It's not easy.
I mean, I look at my niece, and she'll be on TikTok, and I did a little skit with my niece, which was actually really funny. But she'll say to me, "Oh, let's do a TikTok," and she's flicking through all the filters and all the. I just can't. I mean, I'm 50 in a couple of months. You know what I mean? My brain works a lot slower.
I love that expression, and I don't know. I mean, I couldn't be bothered, and I don't know if it's a typical British expression or not. But I think
I was going to drop the F-bomb, but I didn't know if I could.
You may, yeah, and we would almost probably, I think, encourage it. Yeah. So absolutely, yeah, of course. Thank you. So everyone, I want to thank everyone that's here. And obviously, it's the middle of the day for some of you, and so I know that Kaylee's in Thailand and Rocksteady, you are in Australia. But anyone else that's here, we want to thank everyone for being here, and I especially want to thank my guest Oliver Price, who is as you can probably tell by the accent, I'm from Chicago, where we don't got an accent.
I've done a few tapes for a Chicago accent before. Yeah,
have you? We're gonna have to go over your Chicago.
Oh, no, we're not. Is that the time? Is that the time already? No, well, I don't do accents on demand. No way.
I'm upset with you because I thought you were gonna be here shirtless. Because
I can do the shirtless thing. I can do the shirtless thing, but actually, I wanted to ask you what would be your reasoning for wanting to chat with me? What was the pull?
I think it was probably that first shirtless photo. This is the long con. Yeah. I'm just
the moody expression, right? The moody expression.
It was your social media. It was your Instagram, and it was this exciting life that I see and I feel like. I mean, well, you're an actor, but you're a stunt person, and these stunts that you're doing, and then what fascinates, a lot of times when cultures collide and mix, really interests me. And then I saw that I should probably have done more homework. That you're working in this Indian film. Is it a musical? Is it a film? And it just blew my mind that this Indian movie is maybe everything. And for all I know, it's probably the hugest thing in India. It seems like. It's a very high budget thing, and so I'd love to talk about that. So I think that's what attracted me to Oliver, the actor, the stunt person, and then I saw that you were fit, but then when I started doing a little bit of a deep dive, I'm like, oh my, like you were on a competitive level. You are a champion bodybuilder, and what it takes to do that, my goodness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on your first point, I'm keeping it real right now because I'm talking to you from my bedroom. It always makes me laugh when you do a Zoom or something, and everyone's always in front of a bookcase or something really studious to make them look really, you know, oh, I read a lot of books and all this. I think I've got about 5 books, and they're like I think the last book I read was Mike Tyson's autobiography. So, you know, I'm not I'm not sure where that puts me in intellect terms, but yeah, I definitely like to challenge myself. And you're talking about the training stuff, and it makes me laugh because that was something that the competitive thing I did for a couple of years. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm not in shape now. I am, of course, but that picture and that era doesn't define me. It's a bit like how I imagine it's going to go for Will Smith. You know, is he forever going to be a meme now? Is everyone just going to forget what he did before or after the Oscars? You know, it's just going to be that. And similarly, you know, I've done a lot of things before I competed and a lot of things after. And it's a tough one because the way I look, my physicality is my USP, and that's what gets me the work. But at the same time, it isn't what defines me, you know? So as much as I love it, I'm trying to pull away from it sometimes too, you know? So.
Sure. And I like what you said earlier when we were kind of discussing, because at first, of course, I put one of your headshots and it looked great and it was wonderful. Then, of course, I stumbled onto this shirtless photo and I'm like, oh, come on, you know, sex sells. I got to put this on the cover. And if I was brave enough, I would have found a photo of me topless, shirtless, and would have done this and put it on there. But I'm not.
No,
you know,
I mean, I couldn't. I can't compete. I mean, what can I? You know, come on, be fair. I'm the guest.
Come on, please. Exactly. Thank you. Now, you mentioned that if, you know, people have behind them a bookshelf, that means that they do a lot of reading. So by that mentality, what does that say about you that you've posed in front of your bed? Are you just doing a lot of fucking?
I'm a big fan of Ricky Gervais. And
yes.
I often I just can't get enough material to watch of him, and I've been in the gym a few times, and I've been watching his Golden Globes, and the last Golden Globes he did. Oh my days! You know, I mean, he was implying Martin Scorsese was a pedophile. I mean, everyone got absolutely roasted. And I just saw some clips of him. I don't know if he did Jimmy Fallon or The Late Show or something, and he walked on in like an Adidas tracksuit, just really kind of not giving a fuck, you know, and just being himself. And I think today, so particularly because of the influence of social media, everyone's like airbrushed and, you know, like they're not real what they post. And do you know what? Just fuck it. I mean, who cares really? This is me. I've just hung my laundry out in the yard, you know. I do the hoovering. Yeah, I was in an exotic part of the world, jumping off buildings and helicopters. But at the end of the day, it's a job, and you come home and you got to do the hoovering, the vacuuming. You know.
Oh my! For now, we're gonna find you. I guess you're gonna need a maid and all that as your career.
But I do that topless sometimes, so that may be another show altogether.
In that case, please come to Vegas and do my place. It's going to need hoovering.
That could be a side hustle for me, right? Just
I think so. Topless hoovering.
Topless.
We call it vacuuming, you know, because it's longer and more complicated. Hoovering, which sounds great.
Yeah,
I love it. I have to go blow my nose with some Kleenexing, I guess. You mentioned Ricky, and I am such a fan. I'm a fan of RSK, Ricky, Steve, and Carl. So if you ever listen to their early days on XFM,
yes,
I'm sure I've heard every single show. Carl Pilkington's Rockbusters, and I think Carl Pilkington is a genius. And as somebody wrote in once, they thought that Steve was a great character, and Steve's like, "I'm not a character. I'm a real person." But the world that they inhabit, and I thought The Office was genius. You know, the British Office, of course. And then Idiot Abroad.
It's still true now that how that office mentality is. It is absolutely true.
It's amazing. And you know, obviously, then we took a great show, and made it better. No, I'm kidding. And even though I had many friends that worked on the show, I never really got into the American Office, and I'm sad to say, because other people now are saying what a brilliant show it is.
Yeah.
But, we do like what we always do. We take something and then, made it, 9 or 10 seasons or whatever, when it was already perfect the way it was. 2 seasons, a couple.
Yeah, exactly.
Two
And done. And I think the problem with The American Office with Steve Carell, and don't get me wrong, I love Steve Carell. I love him when he's serious. I'm not so big on his comedy. So I think he was already a big name and everyone knew who he was. So you knew what to expect. You knew he was going to be funny Steve Carell playing deadpan and, all the kind of standard stuff Steve Carell does. But Ricky Gervais, no one knew who he was. No one wanted to pick The Office up. No one thought it was going to be any good. But it's that, like Stephen Merchant. I mean, does Stephen Merchant ever play anyone other than Stephen Merchant? Even when he did Wolverine, he was playing Stephen Merchant.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's the thing about these guys; they're just so real. It's and we can connect with that because everyone knows someone like Ricky Gervais in The Office. Everyone knows the character.
So cringy. Well, if you're a fan of, and you might already know this, but there's a great group on Facebook, and I won't give out the name because it's somewhat of a private group, but probably has like 20,000 members, and it might have already just started getting shut down. But everything that you would think the comedy of Ricky Gervais is, it's in that group. So you better have a thick skin and not be easily offended if you want to be in that group. But through there, I found out that they're actually having a convention in Manchester, an RSK convention in September. So I'm going to try to get to that. But I don't know whom they've announced yet, but I was talking to the guy that's putting it together. And I don't, obviously I don't think Ricky or Steve or Carl are going to be there, but all these ancillary characters are going to be there, like Ricky Dickerson or Dick Dickerson, who was just a guy that would call into the show, and Keith, from The Office and things like that. Yeah. So if it interests you, I think it's in September that they're doing.
I didn't know about that. So
yeah. I mean, I'm trying to help them get the word out, but I'm sure they're not going to need any help. But it's crazy that a show, and specifically, the Ricky Gervais show on XFM, and then wherever it was, back then, is 20 years later, there are people still talking about it. And maybe it's just because we're insane, but it's quoting The Office and just enjoying. And it's always the same thing. Somebody posts a horrible meme, and then all the responses are Ricky Gervais lines, or The Office lines, or Idiot Abroad lines, or something which extras, anything that has to do with that RSK world. I'm a huge fan of, and I love I love British comedy, and maybe Monty Python was a little bit before my time, and it was British, but everything that I've seen after that is brilliant. And I
mean, Life of Brian is a classic. I mean, I still would watch that now and find it funny. But we're living in a bit of a more woke society, so I'm not sure how much of that he could probably get away with now. And I think John Cleese, he struggles with that now when he's giving.
He really does. Yeah, I've seen some interviews where he chats about that, and I believe that his daughter's actually here in the U.S. Well, they're probably both in the U.S., but she's doing stand-up comedy here. Oh, wow. And I'd like to connect with her because she seems, obviously she comes from this brilliant comedic spot mind. But I've seen his interviews, and yes, I think you're right 100% that he is struggling.
But look at Bill Murray. Bill Murray is in the spotlight right now because he made a joke that a female member of the production that he was working on complained, and he gave the interview and he said, "You know what? I have to change something that I thought was genuinely funny. She was offended by, and I have to change." So I think a lot of these older comedians and things that we found funny, you kind of have to think, "Am I allowed to laugh at this anymore?" It's I think we're in a bit of a sad place, to be honest, in terms of that. And then the whole thing with the slap at the Oscars, and then who got stage rushed the other day?
Again, you make it sound so prim and proper. Dave Chappelle got attacked on stage rushed, as you said. Dave Chappelle. It just happened,
Yeah, I mean, you do comedy as well. I mean, how do you feel about being up there potentially and like thinking, can I say this? Am I going to get attacked? Is someone going to shoot me in the car park?
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. And as stand-up comedians, as satirists, uh, we should be afforded a little bit more leeway because we know, and I think maybe George Carlin said something to that effect of like, we know where the line is, we know what you should and shouldn't say, but you're always going to toe that line and sometimes push it and see how much more you can get away with. So I mean, don't I'd like to think I'd defend myself, but then again, in the heat of the moment, what are you going to do? Or what if they, like I said, what if you're going to get shot in the parking lot, as we call it?
It's crazy. It's really a crazy world we're living in, and I don't know. I try and just be myself, but you start talking about politics, religion, sexuality. You're walking on dangerous territory these days. You can't. Everything's so polarized. You can't have a little bit in the middle. That's the gray area that we can all enjoy.
Sure. So it's the same thing in the UK, I take it. Everything is it's the world over.
Pretty much. I mean, the whole the whole Black Lives Matter thing came about because of the events in the States. We tend to copy what happens with you guys. So if you guys are getting a little bit more sensitive about things, then that generally filters over to us. But then you've got people like Jimmy Carr, Ricky Gervais, who really don't give a fuck, and they'd rather not perform than be a watered down version of themselves. So, hopefully we've got enough people to push back against all this, cancel culture stuff, pulling down all the statues and all that. I mean, listen, I'm not making any political statement here when I say this, but there was some statues pulled down and the people went to court and they got off from technically vandalism or whatever it was, because the judge basically agreed with them. So times are changing, things are shifting. So it's tricky ground we're in at the minute in terms of comedy and performance, I think.
Wonderful, and thank you for telling me about Bill Murray. Sometimes I feel like we live in such an insulated world that sometimes I miss something, and I'm surprised because if it has to do with comedy, I try to stay on top of it. But it's crazy.
He just looks so kind of like this, like lost for words. But he had to apologize, and he apologized, and it's like, it's Bill Murray, It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna kill. It kills satire and freedom of speech, and that can't be. So there's always still going to be somebody that's still going to be outspoken. And my thing is, if it's funny, it should be fine. And yeah, a few people are going to get a little butthurt, but if it's funny to most people, I think it's okay, because I've been the butt of jokes, and then you think back, you're like, yeah, it was pretty funny. Whether they're roast battles or anything. Those are some of my favorite shows, when they do roast battles or just the roasts in general, because you can almost say the most horrific things, but it's where it comes from. If it's said with love.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, that's a whole different thing. I'm not a comedian. I love comedy. I love doing comedy. I just can't think quick enough on my feet. I love the whole roasting thing, and that Golden Globes thing. It just kills me every time. But yeah, unfortunately, on my latest part, I didn't have much comedy to do. It was all straight, pretty much how you see me on the photo. That stern expression, like that kind of thing. That's my standard look on work. But had a lot of fun. It was a great experience, and working and meeting people from different cultures, as India is very different from how we do things in the UK and the States. Very different.
What movie is this? And forgive me, because I remember the name, but maybe it's pronounced differently. And I'll read something and I go like, oh, I don't know if that's pronounced right, but something Heropanti. How do you? It sounds like a porno, my friend. I'll be very honest.
You're going with this, and every time someone asks me, what's it called? Hero what? Heropanti. Hero in panties. So you're the hero in panties? No. It's called Heropanti 2, and I think it translates as hero. So I'm not the hero, I'm the villain. And the hero is a very a massive Bollywood star. So yeah, it was really cool to work with him. And like I said, the whole process was completely, I'm going to say alien to me, how I'm
Sure.
used to working. I don't know, the last American thing. Well, actually, I did a US TV show a couple of months ago called Autopsy, The Final Hours of. But before that, the big thing I did was Vikings. And things are very professional. You know, you get your call sheet, you know what scenes you're doing, you know your lines. But on this Bollywood thing, you know, you get your call sheet, you turn up prepared for the scenes that are on the call sheet. And then not only are you not doing those scenes, oh, okay, no one told me. You're not doing those lines now. Oh, okay, no one told me that. And you're doing something in a different accent. Oh, okay, fine. You know, so just get on with it. You know, what are you complaining about? That's how it works. It's like organized chaos, but they get it done, and they work quickly, and it was definitely an eye-opening experience for me.
Well, I watched the trailer, and I literally, like, my mind was blown. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. Because I'm like, okay, an action film. And then all of a sudden, of course, then there's like this musical. I'm like, oh, it's a musical. I'm like, wait, but it's an action film. Like, what the hell is going on? My American brain couldn't process.
So something you have to realize about Bollywood is that there's always a couple of songs in there. Always. It can be the most serious film, but then they'll break out into a song. You know, I don't know why they do it. It's just a tradition. And as far as the film goes, it's kind of like a Fast and Furious type thing, with a bit of romance and a lot of action, and the main guy doing a lot of crazy stunts. You can see that in the trailer as well. It's completely bonkers. And I would say it's if you're into things like Fast and Furious and stunt heavy things, then you'll love it. But it's not the sort of thing like Fast and Furious and even James Bond these days. Mission Impossible, they're not my kind of films. You know, I wouldn't want to go and watch them. It's just basically looking at one impressive stunt sequence linked by a little bit of story, and then another impressive stunt sequence, and it just carries on like that. That's not really my kind of film. I don't know about you.
I mean, they're fun to watch, and I'm gonna definitely see if I can watch Heropanti too, because you're in it. But it's and you know what? Expand your mind. I mean, it's because it's something so foreign that you're like, wait, but this is an action film. Why is there a musical right in the middle of it? But now that you've explained it, it makes sense. And that's what Bollywood is known for. And it's great to hear the behind the scenes. I had a friend, Marcio. I did a soap opera with him called Bold and the Beautiful. It's when we first met.
Oh, I know that one. Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah. So I was on there. I played a character named Caesar. Obviously, I'm Latino, so I was a bad guy. We kidnapped the stars of the show. And Marcio, who's from Brazil, didn't speak Spanish, but they didn't know that. So he auditioned. They loved the way he looked. Very similar, imposing guy like you, and maybe also, obviously into fitness and whatnot. So on the first day, he's like, "Can you help me with these lines?" I'm like, "What?" They're in Spanish. Like, he goes, "I don't speak Spanish." I'm like, "Where are you from?" He goes, "Brazil." I'm like, "Oh." I go, "Well, didn't they know that?" He goes, "No, I told him I spoke Spanish." So I think it's safe to tell this story, because it's been 20 years or 18 years or whatever. And so I helped him, and we got along great, and we still keep in touch. And he was doing an action film in Japan. So when you said about this, like, almost guerrilla filmmaking, that it gets done. And I don't know if you actually said guerrilla filmmaking, but it feels kind of that same way. He was working with a very famous director, but he had a translator, and they wouldn't get permits. They shot on the train, and people are around, but they still shoot, and it gets done. So the director likes to do one take, and then we're done. But then the translator, he goes, "Hey, the director would like for you to improve." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, okay. Like faster, slower?" He goes, "No, just improve." He goes, "Fuck, okay." As an actor, you're like, "Fuck!" Like, I thought I was giving it my best, but all right. He does it again. He does it kind of exactly, but with a different emotion. They're cut, and the guy's like, "No." He goes, "You're doing it wrong." He goes, "He wants you to improve." And he's like, "Okay, all right. Well, let's try it again." Like, after the third time, the director's just beside himself, because he only likes to do it once.
Yeah.
It turned out that the guy was trying to tell him that the director wants you to improv. He wanted him to improv, but he was saying improve, and he was like, "Oh, improv, yeah."
Nightmare.
It's like, I can't improve. This is the best I can do. I'm sorry.
So yeah, as far as language goes, there's a similar thing, miscommunication, because in Bollywood films, they'll speak Hindi, which is their language, but they'll also start speaking a little bit of English as well, mixed in with that. So it'll be like, blah, 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 and we need him to go there, blah, 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 you know, like that. So I've got my scene, and I'm waiting for one of the main guys to come down the stairs, and he's talking Hindis, blah, 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 like this. And I've got a line that I say in English, obviously. And I need to know when he's finished his line, when to come in. So I'm like, well, I don't speak this language. How am I going to know when I'm supposed to say my line? I'm looking at him all like serious, like I'm nodding, and I'm like, yeah. Kill him. Yeah, he's really bad. And I haven't got a clue what he's saying. And eventually we had to come to an arrangement where he'd literally like do something, you know, and I know when to say my line. So he'd be like, blah, 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 blah. I'd say my line, you know. It's terrible. What
a way to make a movie. Like, wait till and I could just see you having more work with them, and they're like, look at this guy just fucking itching himself the whole film.
He's scratching all the time. I know, and they speak so quickly. I mean, I guess when you don't understand what they're saying, everyone sounds like they're talking quickly, but especially if there's 3 or 4 of them, which there were, all like, you know, backwards and forwards, and then there's me waiting for this scratch, you know, to put my line in, you know. It's really tricky. And then they've changed the lines as well. And then I did the audition in English. I got the script, and it was play a Russian character. So I prepared for all Russian. So I get to the set on the first day, and I go to meet the director. And I say, I just want to confirm that we're just doing this in a Russian language. Oh, no, you're doing it in American. So okay. It's completely mental, you know, it really is. And then, in the final cut, they've dubbed my voice. It's an Indian guy it sounds like a really bad American accent. I can't work it out, but it's not my voice. They've dubbed me. So, and they've dubbed everyone. So it's bizarre.
Okay, good to know. So we won't judge you when we watch Heropanti 2.
No,
and we're like, what kind of accent was that? Yeah. Speaking of accents, give me your Chicago accent. What was the? Do you remember the audition?
What was the word you said? Chicago.
Well, I said, I'm from Chicago, where we don't got an accent.
I think I had a tape to do, and it was like, "Hey, boss," something like that, and that was like it was 2 or 3 words, and I had to ask someone in the States how would they say this line in. I can't even remember if I'm doing Chicago or not, but it was like, "Hey, boss," and I was playing like a mobster.
Sure.
And yeah, gosh, regional accents in the States. Whew, that is a tough one. I mean, can you do them all? Can you do the Jersey to the? Do you know what I mean? How are you with
I can do Jersey? You know, but I can't be specific. Like, is it New York? Is it Jersey?
That's the thing.
I don't know. To me, it sounds all the same. You know, but then it's different from the South. How y'all doing?
Those little nuances. I mean, I was watching a film with Ben Affleck, and he was playing, I think it was a bank heist movie or something, and he said helicopter. Is it how do I say helicopter in helicopter or something? It sounded like, and sword for sword. It was like sword. The most bizarre.
Yeah, it's a sword. It's a sword or a sword. Yeah, very Boston. Or New York, but probably more like Boston.
It was very specific. Yeah. It was a very specific part around that area, you know, that they only sound like that in that area. So, yeah, the helicopter thing got me. It was like helicopter. It was really weird. But
yeah.
But I'm not. I mean, in the UK, generally, they ask us to do what's called a general American accent. And whenever I go to accent classes, they're like, there is no general American accent. You know, there's all different mixes and regional variations, you know, and all this. So, yeah, it's tricky when you start going into the South and different areas of the South and, all that. But
Sure.
we don't really get to play around with accents over here. If it's an American production, they generally want you to speak English. So
Sure.
yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Well, they say that, I mean, if you were to listen to maybe somebody from like Oklahoma, is it Oklahoma? No, where's Idaho? Like, that's almost that general American accent, because it's whatever the newscasters are using that is very neutral. Yeah. Everything's enunciated. Everything is kind of like this. Yeah. Where it's not like Chicago or New York.
Or, I mean, it's things like, the word internet. Some newscasters will say internet or inter. But then most people would just say inner. I mean, would you say inner or inter?
I say inter. Because you know what? If there are letters in a word, I'm going to pronounce it. Right. So when you guys drop your R's and do whatever bullshit you guys are doing, it's. Yeah. But see, I just said doing. So I guess if it's conversational, yeah. But I think if I'm trying to just come across internet, I think I would say internet. But then that sounds weird too, because it's also internet. If I'm in a hurry, it's I'm on the internet.
So if you say internet, are you would people think that you're trying to make too much effort? And do you know what I mean? That's the thing. I don't know. And then it suddenly sounds unreal. I don't know. But
sure, yeah. Well, it's like texting. I can't text incorrectly. I will back up or erase and rewrite something if I've misspelled something. And I don't know.
I'm the same, and I always put a space after a full stop as well.
Of course.
Or a period. You call it a period, right?
We call it a period, yes.
Yes, I always put a space. One space, not two, one.
Well, that's relatively new, as in the past maybe 10 years, because I found an old script of mine. Well, I'd written, I call something called the Vato Sutra, which is an updated Kama Sutra, and it's just, funny sex moves that I'm trying to get published. And it was so old that it had two full stops after. Did you guys ever do two stops, two spaces?
I don't think so. I've never done that. I mean, I did English for a little while at university, and I always remember it as being one stop. But
interesting, because here was always two spaces after a period. Always. Wow. When you're typing, it was always two spaces, and I'd say in the past 5, maybe I'm already forgetting, but definitely, within the past 10 years, it's become. Maybe just 5 years that it's become, it's now accepted that it's only one space after a full stop.
There we go.
And it's so weird, because some things, like we say period, so much shorter, so much more concise. But then there are other things like elevator, that we say elevator, you guys say lift, or flat versus apartment. It's just so weird that we, pavement versus sidewalk. Is that, I mean,
or you say cigarettes, we say
whoa, easy. Even your liberal use of the C word. I mean, it's even hard for me. I love that word. I think it's fantastic, and I've called people that deserve it,
isn't it?
But in the US, it is ruthless. It is. You don't use it. You don't really use it, and I mean,
it's when women use it as well. It's like amplifies how when you hear a woman use that word, it's like, oh man.
Oof! It stings. But then you guys throw it around liberally, like, hey, that's that's my friend, so of course I'm going to call him a cunt, And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is pretty common. It's a common term of affection, shall we say?
It's fun. It is, and you know what? I see expressions and phrases, always kind of maybe hopping the pond, and it maybe goes back and forth, because I've always tried to use I like the phrase no worries, mate. And I think that's a very British thing, but people are using it here now, and I like to think I was in there an early adapter, if you will. No worries, and now I hear even my brother in Chicago saying, "Oh yeah, no worries." So little things like that, I think will cross, and I think it's great. I mean, thanks for the language.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. But language is I don't know. It's definitely nuanced between countries and continents, and Yeah, you have to be a bit careful. Like I said, from the cigarette thing, you could really get yourself in hot water if you didn't know.
Sure. I think even in one of those RSK episodes, or the Ricky Gervais show, there was a whole explanation because you guys, I mean, that's just what you call them. And,
I know.
Why should you have to change when that's not an offensive word? I'm sure there's other offensive words for someone that's homosexual, but
I know. That's the thing. And that's the thing that I'm saying about having to be so careful what you. I mean, like even now, if I smoked and I don't, and if I went to the petrol station, the gas station, and asked for a pack, I'd have to think, oh, can I say that now? Whereas before, no one would even blink an eyelid. But I don't know. That's just the times we live in.
Well, I guess we'll have to take the blame for that one, for giving it such evil intention behind that word, because it's my understanding that what fags are those logs that stoke the fires of hell is basically where I believe where the word comes from. So I can see where it could be applied and then taken to mean something horrible, or it just means a little stick of a cancer stick or
cancer stick. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking of flipping the coin for a minute, I read your bio and it said that you were into yoga. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm still far from where I want to be, but I credit it with helping me. I've lost about 65 pounds, and I don't speak UK, so I don't know how many stone that is or whatever unit of measure you people use.
That's like 4 stone, over 4 stone. That's
really? Okay. So, and it's because, and it wasn't just doing the yoga, obviously, and you, I'm sure, know a lot about, it's not necessarily the working out, it's what you eat and all that. So it was a change of lifestyle, really. And it was, and my ex-wife got me into it. So I'll always be thankful for that. Because for one thing, it's not a thing that men usually do. I mean, even though it was founded in India, my joke is that it was discovered in Venice Beach, California, or Santa Monica, and it's and then it went to India. But we all know it started in India and it's predominantly male. But now 80% it's female, and especially as a person of color, I'm Latino, Mexican. My father was from Mexico. It's not like something like, oh, yoga is on the, and I had all the misconceptions of, oh, well, I'm not, I'm not flexible. I used to be because I did Taekwondo and I could kick high and I could do the splits and I could do all that, but I'm no longer that person. But I realized then, because of modifications, yoga is accessible to anybody. And I don't know if you read, I have a lifestyle brand called Bad Hombre Yoga.
I saw that.
So yeah, and I'm trying to create products that are more for a POS, I'm a POS, a person of size, that are wider, bigger blocks that you can instead of stacking up 2 or 3 blocks to do a triangle pose or do something, then you can use just these bigger blocks that are a little bit more stable. Okay. And it was really because of the change of mentality also of thinking, you know what, if I go out drinking tonight, and it's not like, oh, I have to do yoga so I can't go out tonight. It was more like, if I go out drinking tonight, I don't get to do yoga tomorrow. Okay. So it was just that little shift of mentality. And and I think a lot of it, of course, was drink, because drinking then leads to, well, I'm going to have a little snack, and it's a big snack of a full breakfast at 2 or 3 in the morning. And I'm in Vegas. So the hours are just, of course, always horrific. And with my stores in the casino, sometimes I'd be there till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and then, all right, let's go for an after work drink. Now it's 6 in the morning. And yeah, you're having breakfast at 6, but you've had, 12 drinks, or whatever. So, so thank you for asking. Yeah.
How heavy were you when you decided
so there is a place here called Heart Attack Grill. And if you weigh over 350 pounds, you eat free. And it's disgusting and horrible and vulgar. My wife forbid me from ever going there. And my joke was I was 2 pounds away from eating for free. And my friend Derek, who owns the casino, said, you should step on the scale with a couple rolls of quarters. But I knew at that point that if I started eating for free, by now I'd probably be 500 pounds because I had to, and everything was just so tough to do from tying my own shoes. And to be honest with you, I think I was already up to like 265. But the joke doesn't work because it's, it's up to, it's 350 you eat for free. But I was probably at like 360, 365. And I ended up coming down to right around 300. And I'm still maybe another 100 pounds of where I'd like to be. And even if I lose 100 pounds, I'm still considered obese.
Oh, yeah.
So
I am. My watch.
Like,
my watch
okay, but at least I get under 200.
My watch tells me that I'm type 2 obese, which I think is quite funny because I weigh 110 kilos, which is around 240 pounds now. But I'm quite tall. I'm about 6'2", so I kind of stretch it out. But at my heaviest, I was around 280, and that felt really heavy. Carrying another 40 pounds around with me, I just can't imagine I was that heavy. So when you say you were the weight you were. Wow, that's tough. That's real tough.
And you don't put it together until like I think we went bowling and I picked up a 18 to 20 pound ball and I was like, oh, let me get a lighter one. And then my wife's like, she goes, you've lost 3 of those bowling balls. And it was like holy shit because one is heavy and it just wreaks havoc on your knees and because it's all that is supporting all that weight. So every pound it's just it helps. So I'm still on my journey and it's I look at somebody like you, to be honest, I feel like I'm just short for my weight because if I was 7'2", perfect.
Exactly.
But I'm just short for my weight. But no, I look at you and it's like wow, like what a great body. But then you look at the work that you actually put into it. I mean, I saw some of your workout videos and it's just like, I mean, and I've seen like the pumping iron, the famous Arnold documentary.
Yeah.
I mean, you really, to be a champion, to be a bodybuilding champion, I mean, that's no joke, man.
I decided to compete because I needed to put my energy into something. At the time, I was a bit lost with the acting. Around 2007, I did a film with Thora Birch, which didn't perform very well. And then after that, my agent wasn't very good. And I wasn't being put up for stuff. And around 2010, I just thought, oh, what the hell, people are encouraging me to compete. So, I spent a couple of years competing and I did really well at it, but it just wasn't ticking all those creativity boxes for me. It was never something that, it's like if you can play piano, but you don't really enjoy playing piano, but people say, go on, you're really good, try it. You can be good at it, but it doesn't mean you love it and you want to carry on doing it. So it just wasn't working for me. Plus, it's not healthy. It's not at that level. It's not a healthy pastime. I don't like calling it a sport because I don't really see it as a sport. A sport for me is objective, whereas bodybuilding is subjective. Oh, he looks better than him, so he's going to win. That's not really something. Mind you could say acting's subjective as well, isn't it? I mean, there's some terrible actors who are doing really well. Or terrible comedians who are super funny, everyone's got an opinion, but no, I think creatively it wasn't working for me. So I put my focus back into the acting and just trying to be healthy. And, like I said, I'm coming up to 50 and I just want to be as good as I can be. I think that's the thing. I think the thing that motivates me though is myself, letting myself down. So I think Dwayne Johnson said, the fear of failure is greater than the hope of success. I think that's very true because if it's in you to do what we do, you just want to keep going because you're scared to stop, because you're scared that you haven't been true to yourself. So
I mean, sometimes I think, whether you're a comedian or an actor, it's like, are we insane? Are we the crazy ones? Because you're in a business where it's like sales, so I think that's made it easier for me. I've always been somewhat of a salesman type where it's a numbers game and you're used to getting no. But now it's personal because you're saying no to me. You're not saying no to my ice cream cone or my cigar that I'm selling you. You're saying no to me, Paul Vato, that you're not the right one. But that for me, I've had a shift where it's like, okay, I'm not the right one for this project. I mean, I'm not going to be right for the next one. And it wasn't my job to begin with. So,
but the problem is now, because I don't know if it's the same in the States, but everything over here is done on self-tape. you don't get that opportunity to go in, meet the director, and he will say to you, actually, can you try it like this? You don't get any of that. You don't even get feedback on your tape. You know, my agent will look at my tapes and go, oh, yeah, great job. Really good. Excellent. I'll submit. But then you don't hear anything. And very, very rarely the casting director will come back and say, oh, we really loved your tape. We're going to keep you in mind, but you just weren't right for this part, you know. But like I said, if you had the chance to go in and meet them, you could maybe show them that you could do it a different way. Because on a tape, how many different takes can you do? I mean, I do 2 generally, but you don't get any. You don't know. It's like, oh, so they didn't like me, and then you kind of, if you do 10 tapes and you're still not booking any work, you know, it's easy to let that self-doubt creep in, isn't it?
Sure. And what's happening also, it's, you know, you're competing with people now that are doing it 10, 20 times and then sending the best too. And I feel like a lot of times that these casting directors, and then eventually when the person's making the movie, you might do yourself a disservice, because I know that if I go in and then he tells me, like I said, change it up, do it this way, and I do it, and they see me like, okay, he can do it on the fly. You might be hiring somebody that can't do that on the fly. You know, because they've sent you the 2 best takes out of 20 or 30 or how many ever takes they did. You got their 2 best, but now they can't adjust on the fly. They don't have range. Whereas if you're auditioning in person, you know, they're going to find out if you're fudging, you know, what you can and can't do. So I could see where a lot of projects could go sideways because of that. I like convenience because I can live in Vegas and submit for everything in LA, Chicago, New York. You know, no problem. So I'm glad I shifted after a 10-year hiatus and got back into acting. So,
but how important is your agent or manager in the process? Because over here, the better the agent that you have, the more likely that you're going to get submitted for. I mean, like a casting director may say, right, we only want to take stuff from CAA or ITG or, you know, Curtis Brown or some of these tier 1 agents. Is it the same in the States, or does everyone have the same opportunities?
I believe everyone has, you know, they're going to all see the same castings out there. You know, there's the different levels. There's the ones that I get to see if I wasn't with an agent, which is kind of like the leftovers. So they do get all the castings. Now, but the thing is, if you're with CAA and CAA has a project, they're going to want all their actors to be in on the project. So I could see where the better the agent is, but I could see, you know, me getting lost in an agency like that has hundreds or thousands of actors, and then you're not getting that personalized attention. And you know, you're not that first guy because there's another 10 guys that look just like you.
I know exactly what you're saying. You're like a small fish in a very big pond, aren't you? You know, so for me, that's why I've maintained the look, because there even now aren't that many people. There isn't a huge pool of, you know, 6'2" guys my age with my physique, you know, out there. And I have to hold on to that, because, you know, you need every chance you can get to get in front of the casting directors.
Yeah. 100%. And have you been to the US to work, or
no,
you work in the UK?
No. I've done US productions, but it's so, like I said, now because of the advent of self-tapes, you know, US production companies are very reluctant to cast anyone in the UK because there's so many thousands of English actors in America anyway, for one. Secondly, they've got to organize all the visas and that expense and all that. Then they're just not going to do that, you know. They're not interested unless you've got permission to work over there. You know, they'll say on some of the breakdowns, you know, genuine US visa holders only or whatever, you know. Because they're not prepared. There's too many people who have got the requirements for them to say, oh, it's open to anybody. And even if you haven't got the requirements, we'll sort that out for you. There's just too many people.
Sure. Yeah. You guys have invaded our country, and you're taking our acting jobs, frankly. So we definitely have to build this wall that Trump was talking about.
Isn't it part built? Did he part build it?
I think a small section got built, but, you know, Mexicans, whatever, then we'll go over it or we'll go under it, you know. So
they'll just take the bricks and make their own houses with it, right?
Yeah, but my friends wrote a sketch that way where they were using the one side, you know, now you got one side of your house built. Just build houses. And who the hell do you think is going to do all the labor? the Mexicans have to build a wall anyway. So what are you talking about?
But the funny thing is, wasn't it just like a relatively small stretch? But then you could just go around this way or that way. I mean,
yeah. It's like, the river is the Rio Grande.
It's Rio Grande, yeah.
Yeah, and it's you can walk across it. That's why I get mad. A derogatory term for Mexicans is wetbacks, and it's because you got wet swimming across. I'm like, it's not us, it's the Europeans. They had a whole ocean to cross. We just had to cross a river to get back to what was ours, anyways. So
exactly. Oh, that's just crazy, though. I mean, I don't know. How did you feel about that whole thing when he came into office? Just crazy.
It was insane, and it's not a lot of the Republicans or the rights. I'm a business owner too, though, so I kind of fall in the middle. I'd rather be right, like you said at the beginning, in the middle. So I agree with some policies from the right. But I have the heart of somebody that wants people to not be hungry and not be forced to have children and things like that. So. I'm kind of in the middle, man. I wish more people were in the middle.
How do you feel? But then, how do you feel now? Kind of gone the other way with Joe Biden. I think it was Joe Rogan who said Joe Biden's like a flashlight that's just flickering and the batteries are fading, and you're in a really dark forest. He's a Democrat. It's like
and that's what happens. It always has to be corrections, So you had 8 years of Obama, and then people felt it went too far to the left. So now we went to the right, but now we went too far to the right. Now it's got to swing back. So, I like the Libertarian Party where it's kind of like government hands off. It's about the people. It's not about all the policy. And I think the old adage is correct, which is, Republicans and Democrats, two sides of a coin, but it's the same fucking coin, So
exactly. I don't think no one's going to please everyone, are they? At the end of the day. And the thing about Trump was he didn't care how many eggs he had to break to make that omelet. He just didn't care. And that I respected about him, but that's the only thing I got to say, because he wasn't influenced by the money man, and he had his own money. He didn't care. He was just going to do what he wanted, and he was going to say what he wanted, which is the opposite of, say, Obama, who was like the ultimate statesman. But did anything really get done under Obama? Was he just a really nice guy? Yes, but did anything get done? How did you feel about that?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because, unless there's a majority in the House and the Senate and however that works, things are not going to get done, because you could say, like, this is what we want, and then they vote against it. So it's always, and I guess I get it too, because there's checks and balances, because then, can you imagine if it went all one way or all the other way?
It's a crazy system, that whole electoral college thing that you have, and one state is worth like hundreds of votes, hundreds of seats, and then another state is worth like 2 seats. It's crazy, but it is what it is, and I guess no one's ever going to change it. So,
I suppose you prefer the royalty, or what's
put everyone in jail. Put everyone in jail. That's the thing. Yeah, it's just simpler.
I like the insult to politicians, which is, politics is like Hollywood for ugly people. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly. There's all sorts of scandals, and they're only human. At the end of the day, people are human. You can't put someone on a pedestal. I'm still waiting for something to come out of Obama's closet, because that guy is just too perfect. There's got to be something in there. I think isn't there a conspiracy theory that his wife was a man or something?
Of course. Oh yeah.
And secretly gay and all this.
Sure. Yeah, of course. But you know what? Maybe that's what the right things is going to be insulting. Like, oh, can you imagine? And then the left is like, yeah. So what if she was? Whatever. Yeah. I don't know. But that for the longest time, that would have been a very hard hitting insult. Like, oh, he's gay.
Yeah. Exactly.
But now people they're running for office, and they're openly gay. And the worst is when the Republicans, and a lot of them seem to do that, when they're the ones that are anti-homosexual, and then they're the ones that get caught with a male prostitute smoking meth. You're like, hypocrite. That's what I hate, is hypocrisy. I think that's from either side. Yeah. So hey, if it was us in charge, the problems would all be solved.
Definitely. definitely. But I'm just going to take a swig of water, Paul.
Yeah, you know what? Let me do that as well. Let me wet my whistle.
Listen, I can talk for England, so if you want to talk about anything, go anywhere. I'm happy to go there. I don't know if your time's up, but it's very late for you, so you tell me what you want to know.
No, I took a nap, so this is good. I can Joe Rogan this for 4 hours, but we don't have to do that.
I've learned. You know what? I've got a big respect to him because I've learned so much about the world purely because of listening to him. I know a little bit about astrophysics. I know a little about politics and the diverse people that he has on. You know, politicians, rock stars. It's crazy, and this whole COVID thing as well, because that's kind of recent. You know, the opposing views of guests that he had on there as well. So yeah, I mean those 3-hour sessions. I don't know how he keeps talking, but fair play to him.
I mean, I could see me doing that with an interesting guest. So that being said, I guess this is over. No, I'm kidding. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. Dun. Yeah. But I you know, and I've gone everywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And then earlier, I had 2 interviews earlier today. It just happened that everybody, well, yesterday, technically, wanted to do it yesterday. And they each went a couple hours. And my question was, and this is for anybody that's in the audience or anyone that knows about podcasting, should I chop them up and do 2 episodes? Somebody said, like, no, nowadays, if it's organic and it's flowing, they can be. I think it's Joe Rogan's influence, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing, because it doesn't seem like 3 hours when you're listening to these things that are 3 hours or 2 hours or however long they might be. If you're having a chat, you're having a normal conversation about stuff, then yeah, it doesn't matter if it's interesting and you're covering some different topics that people are interested in, then yeah, just roll with it, you know?
I like that. Yeah, thank you. Are you doing anything as far as podcasting? Either, I mean, your own thing or just, I mean, and I know it's, another thing on my plate. So it's not.
No. I mean, right now, all I'm doing right now, I mean, the film's done, it's finished, it's out. So right now I'm just back to the grind, you know, back to doing the tapes, back to auditioning. That's it. And you know, you can go from a real high really down to, you can hit the ground hard if you've got nothing else to focus on or get back into. It's tough, you know. It's tough. And then when you see the final edit and then you've been cut out completely, for example, it's like, wow, it's a kick in the nuts, you know. And that's happened to me many times. You'll work so hard on something and then they'll just cut it out. I mean, even the scene in the last film I did in the Heropanti where I get kicked out the helicopter and I do a crazy stunt falling out this helicopter. They've cut it down to just a very quick flash. So what I do, I'm in the habit of getting people to film scenes on my mobile phone. So I've got at least a copy in case it gets cut, which is usually what happens. So that's the stuff you've been seeing on Instagram, you see.
That is brilliant because, again, you know, after a 10-year hiatus, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we weren't doing all this for the TikTok, for the Instagram. So thank you for actually putting that in my mind, that's, you know, hand somebody your phone or your camera and go, hey, could you film the behind the scenes almost?
The monitor. You know, if you're doing a dialogue scene, get them to film the monitor because they're not going to let you film the actors, but just get someone to film the monitor. And that's what I've done. And I've got some footage because of that, because the scenes that I filmed on the monitor aren't even in the film. So
Brilliant. Now, and so that was a question because I've seen your Instagram where you are falling out of a helicopter or you're falling onto a pad and you're getting attacked by this group of people. Yeah. So that was for Heropanti and it didn't make it into...
A tiny bit made it. But you know the funny thing about that scene? I didn't even know I was going to do it. I mean, there was a helicopter, there was a chopper on the pad, and I thought it was a fake chopper. I just thought, we're just going to do a scene inside this chopper and that's going to be it. No one told me the thing was going to take off with the doors open and bank on its side like this. With me in it, I was just playing it cool. The pilot guy was like, "Oh, you've been in a chopper before?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. Never been in one in my life." So I was kind of crapping myself at the same time, but just styling it out, you know. So we'd done that scene, just flying into the thing, landing, and I have to get out and smoke a cigar with these rotor blades like inches above my head, you know. Finished that, and then they drive me to the next location, and there's a big crane there. And I'm like, okay, what's with the crane? I'm looking up at this crane. It's like 70 feet up in the air. And then they tell me they've got to do the next part of the sequence where I get kicked out of the chopper, and there's a drone shot of me falling. So I'm looking up at this thing, and so I'm like, you mean I've got to go up there and be dropped down? And they're like, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, can you imagine? I didn't even know I was going to do that. And that's
insane.
That's insane because, you know, we have this thing called health and safety regulations over here. And I know in the States, you know, you're big on safety, but you're in the middle of Abu Dhabi. How do I know what the health and safety regulations are, you know, if at all? So I got rigged into this suit. It's like a Velcro thing. They strap you in and they cut little holes in your clothes and attach you to the wires. Then they just winch you up and then they just drop you. So, yeah, it was a tough one for me because what do? Do you put your foot down and say, actually, I've never contracted to do that stunt? Or do you say, okay, for the good of the film, I'm going to do it? And obviously that's what I did because, you know, it's an awkward position, isn't it?
But that, man, no, yeah, it is. But you would be 100% right to. Well, it probably wouldn't happen in the UK, and it wouldn't happen in the US without days of planning and maybe months of planning. Yeah. And this is what we're going to do. This, are you comfortable with it?
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
there was none of that, and also you'd be on a different rate as well. I mean, the day rate that I was getting paid was just for the acting. It's funny because when I spoke to one of the line producers afterwards, I said, would you mind if I get a stunt credit because I've done a lot of stunts in this? And he looked at me and like, oh, well, you're an actor. You're going to get an acting credit. I said, yeah, but I've also done a lot of stunts and I can put that on my IMDb. It makes me look more versatile with my work. And he's like, oh, okay. But as far as he was concerned, the actor should do his own stunts, his own singing and dancing, his own acting, his own everything. And that's all expected in that industry. I said to him, over here, you know, you're a stuntman, you're an actor, you're a this, you're a that, you're a that. You're not jack of all trades. But
what a crazy way to look at it. So I don't think I'll be going to India anytime soon because I'm not getting pushed out of an airplane, out of a helicopter. And
it was a tough one. But I mean, look, I had faith in the guys who were rigging me up, and it all worked out good in the end. But it was just another eye opener, you know. And I'm pleased that I'm based here and I'm working here. And if anything like that comes up again, then I'll be ready for it, you know.
So you're wired. Does that mean then this winch system slows you down and you don't actually? I mean, you don't actually get a pad, or
So basically, you're wired in. Then they winch you up, and someone is literally holding on to this button or whatever it is to take the load. So if they let go of that too quick, the whole thing's going to come. Basically, someone is controlling your descent. And we had to do one of those. You can see on my Instagram, there's a big pad on one of the takes. But on another take, we did it with no pad. So I could have potentially fallen from that height with no pad there, you know. So you're putting your faith in someone's, you know, ability to press a button. So,
Jesus. Yeah, I don't know about that, my friend.
I know. But in the moment, in the heat of the moment, and the whole, I don't know, you want the production to be as good and as authentic as possible. I just agreed to do it. My agent would have gone crazy if he'd have known about that.
Sure. He'd have said, oh, forget it. You should be getting stunt pay and stunt credit and all that. So rest assured in the US that on a legit shoot, just like in the UK, I don't think that would ever happen. They wouldn't even think about doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it. I've got all the credits and whatnot that I need, and I've got the footage. So, yeah, it was like I say, just another experience.
Amazing. Were you born in London? You reside in London now.
Yeah. I was born in not London. I was born in the UK, in a very small city. Well, it's a big city now called Leicester. Do you know any cities in the UK? Birmingham. Do you know Birmingham?
You know what? I've heard all of these, and then of course I know the ones that were mentioned in The Office, like Slough, Swindon.
Yeah.
But other than that, and I've heard of Birmingham. I've heard of. Did you say Leicester or
Leicester? Yeah, Leicester. That's next, relatively near to Birmingham, and that's where I was born. Actually, went to school in Florida for a little while. In Fort Lauderdale. Yeah.
Really?
I lived with my uncle over there, and it was because my dad was pretty sick at home, and it was kind of touch and go whether he'd make it when I was very young, like 10 or something. So he actually pulled through, and I went back home. But I could have been living in the States by now. I have a large extended family over there, spread in Florida and DC and all over the place. So I've been a frequent visitor to the States. Generally, just West Coast, East Coast. I haven't explored too much anywhere else. Is there anywhere else?
Chicago. I mean, I think you need to get yourself to Chicago.
Me too.
But really, it's it's the coast. If you're in the business, it's New York, it's LA, Chicago, Atlanta, New Mexico now. So it's kind of it's spreading as some states lose tax credits and then other ones gain them. Then people are like, all right, let's go to Atlanta and film this. Tyler Perry.
Have you done the whole New York thing? Have you tried to do all that?
No, and it's because I chose LA, and it's really you want to be in Hollywood unless you're a theater actor, unless you're staged. Then of course,
I wondered if you'd have gone over there for the comedy.
Yeah, and of course the comedy, and I'm not a stand-up though. I do sketch and improv, so I think that's part of the reason that starting in Chicago, which is where the second city is, and just happened to be in my backyard. For those that don't know, it's the mecca of improv comedy. Is Chicago? A lot of influential people came out of there, or are people that taught other people. They can trace the lineage back to Chicago, and then. Going to LA to do our Latino inspired comedy show, and then finding agents and managers there. We just ended up staying there. But a lot of my other friends, because they went to Saturday Night Live, the sketch show, which is in New York. So it would have been either coast. But then after leaving Chicago and leaving the snow and the cold, it's not very motivational to go like, oh no, let me go back to New York and suffer in the winter. No, thanks.
I've been there. I've been in New York in January, and it's got to be the coldest place on earth I've been to. With that wind, when that wind comes in, it burns. It's so cold it burns.
Well, Chicago is known as the Windy City, so it's, I feel like it's probably even colder. It's off of Lake Michigan. Granted, New York, you've got the Atlantic Ocean there, but Chicago is also known as the Windy City, and that wind just cuts right through its bone.
I didn't know that. I thought it was just like a gentle wind, and it was like quite warm. I didn't actually know it was a cold wind.
In the winter, they have the wind factor, or the wind chill, I think it's called, and it might be 20 below. And again, I don't speak metrics, so I don't know what that is. But it could be 20 below zero, but it feels like it's 40 below. Wow. And it's there was one day where it was 40 below, and it was so cold that the next day it actually shot up. And the joke is, if you don't like the weather, just wait a few hours, which I think a lot of cities have that joke. And then the next day it was actually 20 above, which is still freezing. Yeah, I think 36 is the freezing, what your freezer might be at 36 above zero. And so that's still freezing. So 20 above was still freezing, but it felt so warm. I took my jacket off and I was in a t-shirt, and I go, what am I doing? Like, it felt so much warmer than yesterday. And it was 60 degrees warmer, but it was still, I could die from exposure because it was 20, it was still freezing. Yeah, but that's how severe the weather can be in Chicago. I mean, I put it up there with, I don't know, Alaska, Canada. Now, of course, maybe people from Siberia would beg to differ, but it's miserable.
It's pretty. We have a pretty stable weather here, but it's stable as in it's grey and miserable most of the time, and kind of raining. And it's not a good weather system. I understand why we have a lot of retirees move out to Florida, and I can see why.
Sure. LA is quite the opposite. So of course, so is Vegas. But LA, maybe San Diego probably has some of the best weather in the world. If you like, somebody was complaining, because Chicago, but Chicago has 4 seasons and it's wonderful. And then somebody else was like, yeah, well, LA has 2 and they're both great. It's about that. It's the weather. You can't beat it. But so I had a friend who, rest in peace, Jim Zulovic, who would say he was miserable. He goes, it's always sunny here. It's like, yeah, it's good, right? Like you miss that.
It's so good. I think for me, when people say, oh, have you been over to America to try and do pilot season and all that stuff? The only motivating factor would be the weather, because there's no way in hell I would want to go over there and try and book jobs. I just wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah. And it's not easy for you. I mean, you have to have a work permit. You got to do all that.
Oh, putting all that on the one side, just the fact that, every single person, serving coffee or working in a part-time job is an actor, and, potentially you're going to be going up against these people. Every single person goes to the gym. Everyone's in shape. It just seems like my idea of hell. And big respect to people like, Channing Tatum, who I believe, did he just decide to drive to LA and he slept in his car or something until he got his break in Magic Mike, I think it was. Or Brad Pitt walking around in a chicken suit. I just those guys. Respect. It does help. I suppose it does help with the fact they look like Greek gods. But I wouldn't want to be a kind of a nobody actor. Like I would consider myself a nobody actor over there. Trying to book work, I just think it'd be horrendous.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think we've had some messages. It's at Excel Sanchez. It's only 10:40 a.m. over here. Shirtless Jeff, eat your heart out. There's a guy, a friend of ours, Jeff Nelson, who does a show here on Fireside. Who's very fit. He's a model, a proper, New York model, but so more traditional fit. Jesus Christ.
That's one for Jeff.
I love The Office. I haven't watched the British version. You have to watch. And I'm sorry, these messages are I forgot that they were here. If the woman gets offended, just toss her in the boot of your car, says Kaylee, who's Canadian but lives in Thailand. So if you still have time, I mean, we've got some great people in the audience. I don't know if you'd like to take any questions or at least say hello to some of your new fans here. But that is so, yeah. Bring them up. Is that all right?
Bring it on. Bring it up. Yeah. Okay.
If you and no pressure. If not, no worries, guys. But if any of you, Philip is here, and you know what? I'm farsighted, so I'm sorry. I'm nearsighted. I can only see near. But if I have my glasses on, I can't see, and I had a detached retina. I've got all these eye problems. So anybody that would like to, and again, no pressure. If you'd like to come up, just ask to come up, and we'll have you come up, and you can ask a few questions, or just hello.
It's funny you mentioned about eyes. I'm really short-sighted, and I was actually going to do this in my glasses, but I've got this thing about wearing my glasses. I don't know. I feel it's like an old feeling of vulnerability that I've worn them since I was a kid, and that's partly why I got into training, because I was never allowed to play sports at school because I wore these big, thick glasses, and it made me feel really insecure and paranoid. So even now, I still feel a little bit like that. I was talking about keeping it real and all this, that, and the other. But I guess even for me, I'm still, protecting myself a little bit because I do feel quite vulnerable with them on. And also, I literally look like Mr. Magoo. They're kind of like this thick, So
do you have contacts in right now, or am I just blurry? Or
yeah, I have my contacts in, but my focal point, it's really nerdy and geeky, but I can literally focus on the individual lines on my fingerprints, like this close, it's in focus, because my prescription is -11. I don't know if you have the same system over there for measuring short-sightedness, but
I believe so, but I'm pretty blind, and I think I'm like a -4. I could be making that up. I don't know. I'm going to bring up a good friend and also actor and comedian, Philip. And Philip, let me invite you to video if you'd like to come on. No pressure.
Well, no, because I'm asleep actually. I'm kind of in bed, so that wouldn't be great.
Well, welcome, Philip. Please say hello to our friend. I don't know if you know Oliver, but he's also.
I know. Hey, Oliver. I just wanted to say, yeah, y'all are. It's great. I'm fascinated, but you getting thrown out of a helicopter. That's amazing. Yeah. Also, welcome to Vision Issues tonight on Fireside. I did what you did, Oliver. I started not being able to see for a long time, and it was bumming me out because I'd always had good vision, and I would do a sketch show and I'd have to wear glasses to read my lines. So finally I got contacts, and it changed my life to be able to look like, oh yeah, I can read that, no problem. And then no one knows that I have contacts on that are, the size of saucers in my face. But there you go.
I feel your pain. Yeah, I feel your pain.
Philip, are you?
Yes.
Are you hanging out with Donald Trump right now, or is there anyone in?
You know what? I think he could be here. He wanted to see what Boris Johnson's doing. Let's see if he's around. Hello, everybody. It's me, Oliver. What a great guy you are. You're so great. You're so fit. People love you. They love you a lot. They really do. They think you're so fancy. And I got to say, the people in Britain, they're not nice to me. They're not nice. They didn't like me walking in front of the Queen. I don't understand it. She was very slow. And I understand she's not doing a lot of stuff this lady. She's canceling appointments. What's that all about? Very weird.
Just binge watching Netflix and smoking cigarettes. I think that's that.
That's probably exactly what she's doing. She's watching some of the shows. There's some great shows. Mike Myers, he's a great guy. He's got a new show shot in UK. Unbelievable. Not nice. He should have done it here. But, he's a Canadian now. He's always been a Canadian. But, he was in the U.S. for many years. Many years. I don't know if you know him, but he's great.
He's a traitor, though, so we don't want to talk about him.
That's true. That's true. What's the deal with Boris Johnson's hair? I mean, I have beautiful hair, but Boris Johnson, he likes it messed up. What's that?
I don't know. Every time you see a picture of Boris in the press or the news or anything, this is his pose. Yeah. So I don't know why.
It's very true. It's very true. Well, there you go. There's a little 4 cents worth of Donald Trump there for you guys.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
No, but it's really fascinating. I'm going to have to follow you on Instagram to find out all these things. I recently we were actually one of my production partners. We're actually talking to people in India about doing a film in India, which would be crazy. And but yeah, it sounds like you had an interesting time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like I said to Paul, it's not a way of working that I'm used to. But listen, they've been doing this for 50, 60 years and it works for them. They get it done. Millions of people, cinema over there is massive. So millions of people go to the cinemas. Streaming and online platforms aren't such a big thing for them. So going to the cinema is a big event. They like things really theatrical and I respect that. They've stuck to their old ways and, they haven't been influenced by the way we do things in the West. They just get on with it. And it's worked, like I said, for all this length of time. So yeah, it was just great to experience it and be a part of it.
That's awesome. And do you do stuff in the US as well? Or do you just do stuff?
I would love to, don't get me wrong. But like I was saying to Paul, there's so many English guys out there. Unless a production company particularly wanted me, say for something that no one else could bring to the table, then yeah, it's going to be difficult because
Look, all you've got to do is get a Texas accent and pretend you're afraid of zombies, and you'll get on Walking Dead like that. I'm from Texas, and I'm friends with and Paul. I think you're friends with Scott Gimple, also the showrunner. But he hires more Englishmen to go, hey, y'all, look out for that zombie than anybody else in the world. I could do that in my sleep and can't get hired to do it. So I'm going to go to the UK and I'm going to start acting like I'm English and I'm going to fucking take over and it's going to be amazing.
Clean up, I think, yeah.
How is your British accent, Philip? I'm sure it's amazing.
Oh man, it's great. I went to the Dick Van Dyke School of Accents, and let me tell you,
That's the one that you need.
it's proper good. I'll tell you that right now.
The one you need.
No, seriously, I think it's awesome, and you guys get a lot of work over here, so don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'll literally be watching something and I'll be like, and I'll be looking at their IMDb, thinking, well, I haven't seen them before. Where are they from? And I'll say, I can guarantee they're from England. You can just tell, and they're invariably from England. It's crazy.
It's that R. They overcompensate the R in words. And they'll get to the car. You're like, that's a British person that's just taken an American job, and it's sure enough. So the only one that did fool me though was what's his name from The Walking Dead. I didn't even remember or recognize him from his other.
Lincoln.
Lincoln, right? The lead.
Yeah, Eddie Lincoln.
Yeah, I was floored when I found out he was from the UK, and then what movie was in Love Actually or?
Yeah, Love Actually. Yeah,
and I was like, oh, of course, that's why he looks familiar. But he totally fooled me. I think one of the only people that have fooled me. But
yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird. I do love people that have accents that can do an American accent, and it's because I do so many voices, and I love seeing it because it's like a magic trick to me. Because it's like they just completely go away, and it's just amazing. I think it was Rebel Wilson talks about it. Like when she does an American accent, she gets really happy and dumb, and it just is amazing the way she does it. It's pretty amazing. That's her description of what we are. So I guess that's okay.
My cousin in Florida, he always says to me, just talk as though you can't be bothered to say much, and just try and skip a few words. And that's how we speak in Florida,
There you go. And also a tip if you're ever doing a Florida accent, Oliver, and this is something you could do. Take some bath salts before the scene. That gets you there every time.
Top tip there.
There you go.
Florida man.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for letting me crash, and I'm sure we'll discuss a time that I'll come on and do the show with you this week. I'm sure.
Philip, I would love that at your convenience, at your leisure, as they may say.
We'll find out when you're doing shows, and we'll make it happen. Oliver, nice to meet you, sir. All right, you take care, guys.
Friend. Yeah, thank you. And Philip, right. I have a Calendly if you want to set up through there, or let me know and we'll set it up whatever works. As you can see, I'm up at 3 in the morning.
I know it. I was about to go to bed and I started listening to this. So next time we'll do it soon. But I look exactly like I do in that picture right now in bed. It's pretty amazing. I look up, I wear a blue suit. My hair's perfect. Everything's good. Everything's good. So
you look amazing. Philip. Thank you.
Exactly. That's actually a live video of me laying on a yellow sheet right now. So there you go.
You're a ventriloquist as well. It's very talented.
Well, that just got a really bad signal, but I always look great.
You look amazing.
All right, guys. Thanks,
my friend. Thank you. Thanks for popping up. Well, Oliver, thank you so much for being so gracious with your time, and taking calls, if you will, and meeting some of your new fans here on this side of the pond. But I discovered that it doesn't matter what time we go live on Fireside. There'll always be people because, again, some of our friends are either in Thailand or in Australia. So I like this platform, and if you'd ever like to come on, or if you want to apply to be a creator where you can do your own things here,
it's interesting.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, if it's something that interests you, by all means, please do.
Yeah, this is new to me. I mean, I was late to the Zoom party, and these new platforms that are popping up, it's getting big now. So yeah, who knows? Definitely. I mean, I love to talk, so maybe I'll look into that.
Yeah. Of course, and it's the nice thing is that it lives on the platform. But as soon as we're done, I can download the video, everything, and then re-upload it and it's simulcast right now to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So we might be getting views there. Eventually, I'm going to figure out a way so that if somebody writes a comment on YouTube, it would come to me as well, which is not happening right now. So forgive me, anyone that's just watching this as a live stream. And then I'll download it and add my intro and outro video and then re-uploaded. As a matter of fact, in 2 hours, the season 2 premieres and debuts as a podcast. So my first 3 interviews, Kay Parker from Canada, Bill Cott, who's an improv actor from Chicago, but in such movies as Dude, Where's My Car? And he was in Galaxy Space. What was it? Galaxy Quest. And with Tim Allen, and Mr. Larry Tate from Wizards of Waverly Place, and then Naomi Grossman, who was Pepper on American Horror Story. These are the first 3 episodes that are coming up in 2 hours. So please subscribe to that and all that good stuff. But Oliver, I think you would do great on the platform because, and again, you can just go on for 10 minutes and give acting advice, and then it lives on the platform, or you can download it and use it, re-upload it somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. It's cool.
Wonderful. Well, Oliver, do you have any final thoughts, or is there anything that you'd like to promote? By all means, please do.
No, honestly, no, I don't have anything. I mean, like I say, I did this little TV show called Autopsy that you guys get over in the States. But other than that, I'm just auditioning, and if everyone could just cross their fingers for me, then send a little bit of luck my way. Who knows where you might see me next.
That's amazing. Oliver, I sincerely appreciate the time that you've taken to chat with me, and it's been such a great conversation. And if you'd ever like to do it again, I'd be more than happy because I'm, we'll catch up and
then you can tell me what you really think when you direct message me on Instagram, right? Tell me what you
yeah.
Then I'll say, hey, Paul, how did that go? And then you don't reply.
I'm not going to reply. Just so you know, you already know how this is going.
Yeah, I know how it goes.
You know.
Just keep it real.
Get used to it. No. So this has been wonderful. I'm going to invite the Waitbot up. So what'll happen? There'll be music, and then I'll just end the show. So Oliver, again, thank you. Make sure you guys follow Oliver at Oliver Price Official across social media, and follow me at paulvato.com or vato.tv. And from there you can find, but also if you could be one of the first ones to download or listen to my podcast, which is in 2 hours on Spotify. It's where it's first going to be, and then, be spread out to all the other podcasting platforms. So once again, Oliver, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Paul. All the best. Cheers.
En ese hombre holding up the bottle. Look a little closer, cigar and Moscato. An actor in improv coming from Chicago. Outdoor, make way for Paul Vato.